Well, hello and welcome to this latest video. In this video we're going to continue looking at setting up NetBeans, and in the last video, if you haven't seen that, we set up the plugins, and I'll put a link to this at the top. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you see it before watching this video, as some of the items will appear in the options. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the options. Now, there are quite a lot of options to look at. It's going to take a number of videos, and so we're just going to work through methodically through the options. Okay, so here we have NetBeans set up, and the first thing I want to do is I want to change the size of the menu icons. So if you right click on the menu, you can come down and click on small toolbar icons, and that's that sorted. As easy as that. Okay, so next, tools, options. Okay, as you can see, there are a number of options to look at, and some of the options will have multiple pages within them, so you can see it's going to take quite a long time. NetBeans is very good in setting itself up. It should have found your internet connection. It should have found all the system that you're using. You can test it by clicking test connection, and you can get the tick. So that's the general side. Now, the web browser you can decide which one you want to use. I recommend you leave it at the default system browser, and we can change that later. Once you have set up all the options that you want, you can export them so that you can keep them for next time. But the export process also exports templates and other items as well, so there's quite a lot to do before we do that. So, first of all, let's go through these methodically. Let's look at the editor. Brace matching. This is probably needs to be left as is. You might find that tooltips are a bit of a problem, but basically I would leave these as is. So let's go into folding. Now, folding, what this does is allows you to close and open code so that it's easier to read. You can set it up for all languages or just for a particular language by the drop down box. Okay, I'm not going to collapse by default anything. Okay, but if you wish to do so, then there's no problem in doing that. For example, documentation or initial comment or whatever can be collapsed by default. Formatting. Now, this is quite an important area. And here there are a number of things that we need to do. First of all, I would recommend expand tab to spaces, because when you look at this on other editors, then you'll find that it works quite well. What you have here is you have an outline of what it's going to look at like. Now, a number of things that I think are quite good is that you change the number of spaces per indent to 2, and you change the tab size down to 2 as well. Okay, this will follow the atom system as well, which we're going to set up later. The Visual Studio Code uses a tab size of 4. The right margin at 80 sounds good, and I usually leave it at that, but I do turn line wrap on after the words. Okay, so having done that, we will click apply. Okay, you can change the formatting for the different languages. Okay, so for now we're just doing the tabs and indents, but we can, for example, come down into HTML, and you'll see that on here we just have the tabs and indents and leave use all language settings set. But if you come down to, for example, PHP, you'll see that this has a number of different settings. Now again, this is all up to your own personal tastes, okay, and how you want to set it up, and that's your choice as to how you do it, and you can see what it's going to look like if you have a look here. So for example, you've got the alignment. Do you want new lines and that type of thing? Where do you want the braces? That type of thing. Blank lines. Now this is all to your own personal taste, okay? Now to give you some idea, on mine, the braces, I always start a new line, okay, on all of them. This is going to take a while to do on mine, so we'll come back when it's done. Okay, so that's the braces done. Blank lines, again, I tend to leave these as is. It's your choice. Spaces, do you want spaces before keywords? Do you want spaces before parentheses, that type of thing? Do you want them around operators? I tend to leave this basically as is. Okay, I'm quite happy with that layout. Wrapping, when do you always wrap words? When do you actually do it? Again, I tend to leave these as is. Again, it's your choice, and in usages you can actually decide whether or not you want fully qualified domain names over unqualified and that type of thing. Again, I tend to leave these unticked. Code completion. Now we've got code completion, pop-up windows, automatic documentation window. You may want to switch these off. Once you know how to use the language, once you're happy with the language, you want to switch these off, because these will pop up windows that will become a little bit annoying later on. I'm going to leave them switched on at the moment as we go through the tutorials, but I will usually switch them off for code. Code templates. Now we're going to be using Emmet, okay, and you might remember we've actually installed Emmet. Now Emmet by default on other languages uses the tab, so I recommend that we change this to tab. So if we come down to HTML, okay, you can see these are the HTML ones, and you can come down to PHP as well. You can see the PHP ones. Now these are quite useful to have, because Emmet doesn't do PHP, for example. So we want to keep these going. So what we actually do is have them on Shift and Space. Okay, so when we press Shift and Space, it will automatically do it. You might want to put it just on a space, so if you're actually typing something and press space, it will automatically do it. I find that sometimes it'll fill something in I don't want, so Shift and Space works well for me. Okay, hints. Now again, I tend to leave all of the hints on, so it gives me hints. Your choice, but this will come up and tell you if there's problems or whatever in your coding. Highlighting. Okay, so again, if we come down to PHP, it keeps your highlighting. Macros, there aren't any at the moment. I will show you how to set up macros later. What do you want to do on save? Now here you've got a number of choices. Okay, would you like to reformat, remove trailing white space, that type of thing? Again, it's your choice. I do like to reformat, and I do like to change the trailing space, so I will actually set these up like that. Okay, but again, it's your choice to see how you'd like it. Spell checker. Okay, you can see that it will spell check in a number of different languages, okay, and you have a number of dictionaries. I'm in the UK, so we've got the UK dictionary. You can add new dictionaries for different areas, and of course it picks up your default locale. I'm in the UK again, so it's picked that up. Okay. Finally, go to. What happens when you use the go to dialog? I tend to use these as standard. So press apply and it will set those up. Okay, my computer's running a little bit slow tonight for some reason. Let's see if we can speed it up. Fonts and colors very quickly. Your profile, you can change the profile if you wish to use a different profile. I'm quite happy with the fonts and colors for everything, so I will actually leave them as is. You can change the highlighting of braces, you can change the annotations, you can change the versioning, you can do all of that, but I'm actually very happy with the NetBeans setting as is, so I leave it as standard. Keymaps. Now this is quite important because this is where you can find out and you can change keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so again, if you're used to a particular editor of some sort, you can actually change it here to Eclipse or Emacs or that type of thing. I'm used to NetBeans, so I shall leave it as the NetBeans key map. Okay, you can of course create your own as well. Okay, Java, well, I'm not going to be using Java and we're not going to be looking at that, so you can leave this as is. Okay, in the next video we'll look at HTML and probably PHP because they're going to take somewhat longer than this video. As I say, if you haven't watched the plugins video, please do so. There's a link at the top here to click on to have a look at, because you'll find that some of the options, for example, we have Emmet in here and things like that, which are actually part of that video. So as always, please like and subscribe, and my name's John, and I'll see you next time.